Hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
You look bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, pumped and ready to go.
I'm sick, I'm tired, but what a race. I'm absolutely stoked to talk about this with you today, Jace. Did you enjoy it?
You're able to push through the pain.
Absolutely, yeah. Some people, poor old Piastri won't be pushing through the pain tonight. I think he'll be a pretty sad chappy. But yeah, what a race, Jace. Incredible to see the cat and mouse game so back to back on these two most recent races. Belgium, where Lando is chasing down to the wire to catch up to Piastri, and then today we got to see it the other way around, right?
Yeah, incredible. And I love these races where halfway through the race you still have no idea who's going to win. It could go one of three or four ways, and to watch, as you say, the reverse of the Belgian Grand Prix play out in front of us was amazing. And to watch Piastri stalking in that last stint and get to within half a second and a bit of a lock-up, but just not close enough to be able to take it from Norris. And I'm left wondering, why did they think that a two-stop strategy was going to be optimal? They weren't alone. So there were other teams and other drivers up and down the grid that did that too. But at a track like the Hungaroring, where track position is king, just like in Monaco, and many, many times in the past, it's just been impossible to overtake there. I'm left wondering, what were they thinking?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess they were thinking covering off Leclerc, right? I mean, the Ferrari was showing such incredible pace in the first few stints. The undercut didn't work for Piastri. It felt like Ferrari was the car to beat in this race, and then the wheels fell off. So I think McLaren were trying to cover that off. I think probably the data on Piastri's side was probably telling the team on his side of the garage that Lando's kind of one stop was a shot in the dark and he'd be able to hunt him down, but he couldn't. So I don't blame Piastri's side of the garage for thinking, look, Leclerc is the fastest car on track. He started in pole. That has to be the priority. But that wasn't the way it played out, which is just thrilling to watch.
Yeah, and at a certain point in the race, probably about the halfway point, Norris had cleared Alonso. So at the start of the race, he got shuffled back through some solid defending by Piastri and some aggressive, opportunism by Russell and by Alonso. So Norris was running in fifth, but he'd managed to clear Alonso, and he was struggling to get past Russell. He wasn't able to overtake Russell on track until Russell eventually pitted on lap, 30. And his pit crew said to him, well, what do you think? Do you want to go one stop? Do you want to give it a go? And he said, yeah, why not? Like, just throw the dice and see what happens. And that proved to be the master stroke, because once whatever happened to Charles Leclerc's car happened and his pace just fell off a cliff, he, by that stage, had Piastri behind him in his dirty air for something like 50 laps. And Piastri hadn't been able to get ahead and build up a gap so that he could safely pit and come out ahead of Norris. So Piastri was kind of in a ride to ruin for the last part of it, where he gave us a really entertaining battle trying to catch up with his teammate and ultimately unable to pass him. But at the middle of the race, it seemed like Norris had consigned himself to maybe being P3, P4 at best. And yet, come the end of the race, he's the one. He's the legend who stands at the top of the podium and is able to say, I did that. I held off a fast, hard-charging teammate. I managed to get through all those back markers, the many, many, many waves of traffic that he had to get through on a very tight, difficult, twisty circuit. What a race. I mean, they said on the commentary, I think this is one of Norris's best victories to date, and I have to agree. I think he just had a mega drive, made a good strategy call work, made those tyres last a crazy length of time. Hats off to Norris. This was a stellar drive today.
Absolutely. 39 laps he nursed those tyres. That was incredible. Crofty and Brundle, you saying that reminded me of them saying his best chance is a distant fourth. So to see, Crofty and particularly Brundle, an ex-racer, say fourth is the best this guy can get today. He's probably lost a podium to go to first. Was incredible. But I'd love to talk a little bit about what happened to poor Leclerc, whatever you like. What happened to Leclerc? The first two stints were so strong, and something shifted massively when he did that second pit stop. Have you picked up on any ideas of why that might have fallen off so hard for him? He was furious on the radio, wasn't he? Absolutely raging.
He was mad. He thought, and I wrote down on my notes, did Ferrari's strategy really mess this up? He thought that they'd done him dirty, and he was furious by what they'd done. He thought there was some kind of wing change or something that'd been done during the pit stop. He was furious, which was fascinating and amazing to see that sort of bubble over live on air. And afterwards, he came out and said that he didn't have all the information, that there was something to do with the chassis. Who knows what it was? Maybe they picked up some damage along the way. Maybe a gust of wind came along and blew up the skirts in the wrong way. Who knows? But Charles' pace just disappeared. It evaporated. And so he's there fuming on the radio, going off at his engineer. And his engineer, to his credit, sort of keeps it all together and doesn't say, you don't know what we're talking about, get back in your lane. But there's something that happened to Charles, his car today, and who knows what it was. Do you have a better insight than I do?
I've got a little bit of an insight that I think anyone who would have listened to interviews in the paddock may have picked up on. But interestingly, both Hamilton and Leclerc said there was a chassis issue. When George Russell was asked in the paddock after this, because there's been other opinions as well, like during the race there are other opinions. Maybe it was power unit management, maybe it was something to do with onboard balance settings, recalibrating the balance of the car for the hards. They hadn't done that correctly on the digital side. But when George was told in interview, Leclerc says it's the chassis, he just had this wry smile and he said, well, they're never going to tell you what it was, but I'll tell you, he basically said, I'll tell you what I think it is. They were running that car so low to the ground, which is where they were getting the pace from, that they were wearing out the plank. And basically, when they realized how hard the wear on the plank was, they had to increase the tire pressure in that third stint, which basically killed the car, killed the pace of the car. So I think I'm going to go with George on this one. I think they were running that very low and they suddenly freaked out about the plank wear. We'll find out, I'm sure, as more people investigate. But seeing George kind of say, oh yeah, the chassis was one of my highlights of the I haven't watched many interviews post the race, but that was the one that really caught my eye.
Gosh, that's hilarious. The funny thing about the tyres is that, and maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places, but the tyres seem to be the hardest piece of data to get hold of after the race. If you look online, there's lots of telemetry. You can see braking, steering, accelerating inputs. You can see lap times. You can see all sorts of other data. But the tyres, which tyres were used and what tyre pressures they were at the time, it seems to be a very closely guarded secret. So
interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wouldn't be surprised.
It wasn't a race without drama outside of the Piastri Lando charge, was it? We had Max dive hard down the inside on Lewis towards the end of the race, which to me brought back 2021 memories. I don't know if it brought back those memories for you, but forcing Lewis or not forcing Lewis off track. But I watched the replay, and in my mind, he was so far, Max was so far behind on the apex that I think that was an unfair move. Don't understand why the decision on that has been held for a later date. I don't know if that decision has come out yet, but what were your thoughts on that move, that kind of reminiscent Hamilton-Max moment in the race?
It did take me back to earlier seasons, but not to 2021. It took me back to, I think it was 22 when, was it 21 or 22 when Ocon won? And it was Hamilton trying to get past Alonso. And it was, in this case, it was Hamilton behind Alonso defending. And there were a few times where Hamilton had to get a bit aggressive coming up into turn 4 and didn't quite do what Verstappen did to Hamilton today. Yeah, I think it was Hamilton in a, I mean, let's face it, this weekend, you could not have gotten his headspace any lower. You know, he basically said at one point, we just need to change drivers. That's the only solution for the situation that's happening at the moment. So Lewis is in a bit of a bad place at the moment. And whilst Verstappen didn't push him off, Hamilton kind of just exited the circuit of his own accord in order to give Max the space. And I think the body language of that moment speaks volumes to how bad things are for Lewis at the moment. I also think I'm not sure I've seen more than one or two overtakes at that corner ever in F1. It's like such an unusual spot to be doing overtakes, which kind of makes it fun to watch Max drive. You know, he was doing overtakes at the chicane. That's a few corners after that. That's also another place that you don't often see that many overtakes. Usually you see the overtakes into turn 1 or sometimes into turn 2, turn 3. So I don't know. I'm grateful for Max for bringing some element of entertainment to parts of the race, even if I don't agree with that move. I think it was such a lunge and opportunistic move, and Lewis did the gentleman's thing of getting out of the way. If he had crashed, it would have been an un-Lewis type thing to do. Thinking back to 2021, that was one of the things that people criticised Lewis for not letting Max crash. You know, he would so often dive out of the way, and that was giving Max a chance to sort of be naughty and get away with what he does on a regular basis. I also think it was interesting in this case that Lewis didn't even bother going to the steward's room afterwards. It was uncontested when they looked at it afterwards. Again, Lewis just wanted to be away from the circuit. He needs to have that time away, get his head back in the game, regroup, refocus, and come back stronger in the second half of the season. Because yeah, he was not a happy chappy this weekend.
Yeah, and I think my opinion on Lewis is this is the exact place he needs to find himself in. I think this is really positive. Hearing him say, "It's my fault. I'm driving. I'm the problem. They should probably look for another driver," which is pretty much what he said. I think it's a really positive place for Lewis to get to. It felt more emotive, it felt more real, it felt more honest. There was a lot of people saying, "Oh, you can't say that, you cannot say that." I would say, yes, you can say that. And I think that's a place to build from. It's not the things we've heard from Lewis before, like the blaming his race engineer on the radio, or saying that he's not coming to grips with the team. It's him saying, "I'm the problem, and this begins and ends with me." I think that's a beautiful place to build a comeback from, personally. So I was actually really encouraged to hear him say that. We know he's a fighter. We know that must have been really hard to say about himself, and I think he really meant it. He said, "Look, Leclerc's on pole. Look at me, I'm down in 12th. This is not a car problem. It's not a team problem. It's a me problem." And that is a great place to build a comeback from. Full personal responsibility.
And on the other side of that equation, you've got Leclerc who's sort of scratching his head saying, "I'm not really sure why I'm on pole. I have no way of explaining this. This is a bit of a confusing moment for me." And the two McLaren boys are also looking at that going, "Huh? How did that happen?" No one really has a good explanation for why Ferrari turned up in Q3 with that kind of lap. Aside from, all I've seen is that it got a bit windy. Some gusts of wind came and did the McLaren guys in, and it was Leclerc who benefited from that. But there's more than a few drivers this weekend, drivers and teams, frankly, that were not really sure how it all panned out the way that it did. I can point to the Sauber boys as well, or the Aston Martins, who were both at the end of qualifying on Saturday going, but that's pretty good. We'll take some of that, thank you. And some of them were even able to translate that into success during the race as well. So there's a sense of like, what just happened? Confusion.
I think there's a chance that in that qualifying where Leclerc got pole, that there was a drop in the wind just for his one lap, and it gave him that little benefit. But I don't think that's the case. I will keep banging this drum that Leclerc is the most underrated driver on the grid. He's one of the best drivers on the grid. He's certainly one of the top qualifiers in terms of single lap pace. And I just don't think he's had machinery or team strategy behind him to really showcase just how great he is. But I think Leclerc did a perfect qualifying lap and absolutely deserved that pole. And once again, the team strategy let him down, or the setup, running this car too low to the ground, having plank wear issues, whatever it was. He's one of the best drivers on the grid. I'm just going to keep saying it. And his time will come, I think. It might not come at Ferrari.
I think it's interesting that we don't talk about Leclerc very often on our debriefs. It's one of the things I've noticed that we just don't give him that much love. So, I'm happy for him, seeing him perform so well in qualifying. Gutted that it all fell apart during that second half of the race, because he really did look like a nailed-on winner during the first 30-odd laps of the race. I was thinking, wow, Piastri's lost him. He's not able to close up. There's enough of a top-line speed difference during the straights. He's got him in the corners. What's going to happen? This is actually looking more likely to be a Piastri 2, maybe Norris 3. And then it all went wrong. I guess maybe we'll never know what happened to Leclerc. But he fell off a cliff in a big way. Devastating.
And I tell you what, he knew what happened, which is what he intimated. He was saying, why don't you guys just listen to me? We could have got ahead of this if you just listened to me. He knew what happened. He wasn't going to say it in post-race interviews, hence he and Lewis getting PR'd into saying a chassis issue. But he knows exactly what happened, and we might find out at some point. But you're right, we may never find out. But it's kind of like a rabbit and hare thing. Don't set your car up to be fast in the first two stints if it's going to fall off a cliff in the third because you've overcooked something about it. What's the point? You get your driver kind of out in front of everyone, and then they just have to slip back from pole to P4, not even get a podium. It feels very Ferrari to me, to be honest. But
yeah. I hear what you're saying, but also it is a track that's notoriously hard
track position
overtaking.
Yeah, a track position track.
That's a weird thing that I also was surprised by. So many drivers doing a two-stop strategy today, considering that. I don't want another boring Monaco snooze fest where they're all driving 10, 15 seconds slower than their theoretical optimal lap. But yeah, it was surprising that so many of them decided to bite the bullet, take the plunge, go in and get fresh rubber, and then come out behind. Yeah, bizarre. I didn't quite understand that. But of course, I'm not in the cockpit, so I don't really know what it's like to be dealing with the realities of tyre wear throughout the race. But someone who does, and someone who has just been our stalking horse and slowly but surely Mr. Consistent, George Russell coming through.
Georgie.
Finding his way onto that podium yet again. Another podium, another top 3 finish for him. A strong points haul. I'm thinking, he's pretty good for P3 in the championship.
Yeah, I was looking at the points today and remembering our podcast when I think I said to you maybe 1 or 2 podcasts ago, there's no way George will beat Max. And I felt myself having the first teaspoons of humble pie today where I thought, Jace, I think Jace might be having bragging rights at the end of this year. George is looking... Well, the machinery is looking good. George is looking consistent.
To be fair, if you make enough predictions, some of them have to be right.
So Nico Rosberg said something interesting this week in an interview, which was basically that he doesn't think we can fairly say that Lando is a smidge faster than Oscar anymore. There's long been this narrative that we've all picked up on that apparently Piastri probably has a little bit better racecraft, but Lando's a bit quicker. And Nico's saying, no, I don't think we can say this. And in fact, he said that he thinks the real battle is in Lando's mind. What is your thought, Jace, of Lando and Piastri's headspace with only 9 points separating them, with Piastri with a 9-point lead going into the summer break? How do you think he'll be feeling after today? He had a chance of going a lot further ahead of Lando today. Do you think he's going into the summer break positive as someone who's still ahead, done the hard work for the first half of the year? Or do you think he's feeling a bit gutted? Do you think we might start seeing some cracks from Piastri now? Because we've seen the cracks from Lando, and in my opinion, we've seen him overcome a lot of his demons, be a lot more positive when he has made errors, and be a lot more laissez-faire about it. Oh, okay, not too bothered about that. That race wasn't great, but I'm okay. Long way to go. What do you think, Jace? What are their headspace going into the summer break?
Well, let me first start by saying a little bit about my headspace. And I'm so happy that it was the outcome that we got today. Because I was looking at this a little while ago, looking at the difference in points between them round to round. And it has fluctuated between, at the peak I think it was 22 points in Piastri's favour. And it got as low as 3 points between them. And now it's 9. And I'm just loving how close it is. So I don't really want one of them to be able to run away with it for the rest of the season. I am quite happy for it to be hovering around this 0 point sort of fairly consistently, so that neither of them feel like they have psychologically the upper hand. I think this is brilliant from a fan's perspective.
Absolutely.
Coming back to Piastri, he seemed pretty calm about it in his commentary after the race. I think he enjoyed the battle, but didn't feel like it was, a thing that he'd thrown away or that had lost in some major sense. It was just he wasn't able to do the thing that he tried to do. And I think leaving the first half of the season on that kind of note, we'll see the robot just sort of process his robot-y feelings, and he'll come back as though nothing's changed. He'll pick it up again come the next round. That's my view on Piastri. Norris, on the other hand, I think it's really positive for him, because if he had failed to win this race, if it had been a last lap overtake and it had been a racecraft thing, and Norris had his sort of one hand on the trophy but then had it snatched away at the last minute, I think he would have gone into the summer break a lot more sort of introspectively and sort of self-flagellation wise. He would have been getting the whips out, and I just don't think he needs that, because he's had a really solid run of races, and this is a great way for him to wrap up. It's not quite the first half of the season, but going into the summer break, it seems like a nice milestone, and I think he'll be sort of riding high going into that summer break and come back, ready to go for the second half. It's so exciting. I'm pumped. What do you think, Gav? What do you think? Differently to what I'm putting out there, or do you feel the same way?
I think everything you've said is completely reasonable. I think I found the desperation, and almost, I don't want to say this, I don't know if I can say this, but almost like a little boy voice coming out of Piastri today when asked about strategy, when he basically said, all I really need to do is beat Lando, I don't really care about Leclerc, I just want to beat Lando. I heard a bit of desperation there today, and my feeling is that, and I might be proved wrong in the second half of this year, but I think Lando has faced his demons. We talked a little bit about the self-flagellation, the blaming himself, the thinking he's not good enough. I really believe, having seen him lose out to Piastri more recently, something has shifted in Lando. And I think he's faced his demons. He has come out the other side a stronger, more level-headed driver. I don't think we've ever seen Piastri. We've never seen the cracks appear for Piastri. But I think if it starts going badly next year, we might see Piastri having to go on a similar psychological journey to Lando. So I'm not sure when he was told when he was told at the end by his race engineer, you did really well, great points for you, you're still leading the championship, great points for the team. He didn't respond. There was no, yep, okay, great. Yeah, not what I wanted, but he didn't say anything. He also didn't congratulate Lando in the post interview, which Lando always congratulates Piastri when he wins. I think we could see some, if it starts going Lando's way, I think we could start seeing some cracks in Piastri. I kind of hope we do.
I wonder, is it cracks or is it just who he always has been? And we've all thought that he was a nicer guy than he really is.
100%, Chase. 100%.
I don't
he is
mean...
not, none of them are nice. Well, actually, I think Lando is quite a nice guy, but Piastri is not a nice guy.
Yeah, ruthless. And he does remind me, in a way, of some of the greats of the past. He does remind me a little bit of Schumacher in that sort of cold ice runs through his veins. And he's honest about his objectives. I agree that it might have seemed a bit desperate at the time, but at least it was honest. He said, my race is not with the red car in front. That car, Leclerc is what, P5 in the standings? He's irrelevant to me. It doesn't matter. It's only the guy in my wing mirrors. And I love the honesty to be able to say that. I also think as well, as I was watching it, at various times you think, well, this is a locked-on Ferrari victory. Oh, wait, is it? Oh, okay, then it must be a Piastri victory. Oh, wait, is it? Hang on, does Norris have this? The race was such a roller coaster of emotions, even watching it from the outside. I can only imagine how confusing it must have been to be in the cockpit trying to make sense head nor tail. Alonso seems to be able to do it, but it's not a skill that everyone's got. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the sort of laying bare of what is truly in his mind and in his heart is a thing of beauty, even if it's actually also kind of a little bit ugly to look at the same time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Did you hear what George said to them both in the cool-down room?
No.
Well, we were watching that second to last lap lunge that Piastri did on Lando, where Piastri took a bit of a risk and locked up, trying to overtake Lando.
Not for the first time.
The first time. That's what I'm talking about. The desperation, the hunger. Like, at what point are some of those lunges dangerous? We know that team orders between those two drivers is you can race as much as you want, but please don't crash each other out. But George said to Piastri, why didn't you just T-bone him in that cool down room? And the joke didn't go down well. And I think what I loved about that is I think that's a little bit of psychological warfare from George. Like, what if I just put the cat among the pigeons in this?
And
moment?
that's his playbook for the year, isn't it?
100%.
He's just there on the sidelines with his popcorn, throwing little darts at the players on the field.
Are we saying that George is taken Max's role as the Joker in the pack?
I think George has been learning.
Yeah.
And if Max isn't going to deliver, like, come on, man, he qualified 10th and finished 9th. The dude, it's not working. You gotta bring your A game, mate. If you're not going to be bringing it on track, at least you got to live up to your persona as the Joker in the pack. Come on. So someone's got to stand up and take one Absolutely. For the team and do the job. Can we talk a little bit about Hülkenberg?
Yeah.
Do you agree with the start line penalty?
I mean, I watched the footage. It looked like he started kind of ever so slightly rolling. So I don't know how.
I guess they have sensors as well. So I guess they got more information. And I'm just going on visual memory, but it didn't seem like a penalty to me. But what the hell do I know?
Interesting. Yeah.
But so frustrating because he qualified really well, and aside from that penalty that he got, stopping on lap 4 or lap 5. Was a stroke of genius, and he actually, I think he was on for a finish as high as Bortoleto. I think he could have finished 5th or 6th or even 7th.
What would he have qualified for without that penalty?
No, that penalty came about in the race, not in qualifying.
Apologies, yeah. So he qualified down.
Hang on, no. He qualified 19th. So what am I talking about? But because he qualified so poorly, he started on softs and then he got off them really quickly. He got off them in the first few laps.
Yeah.
And then because everyone else was going in that train, he was lapping 2 seconds a lap faster than everyone in the train.
Yeah.
He was essentially doing the same pace as the leaders. And so because of that, he was able to catch up the gap. And by the time they were going to have to pit, he would have jumped most of them. And in fact, I think he got all the way up to 10th or so. And then he had to serve his penalty. So he lost out because of that. But it could have been another strong Hülkenberg result. I was so disappointed. And, it's like the little things, because they're so tight, 1 second separating P1 through to P17 is all the little operational things. And Sauber have been doing them a lot better this year. So disappointing for Hülkenberg. But on the other side of the garage, Bortoleto finished P6 behind his mentor and manager, Fernando Alonso. What a result.
Yeah, incredible. I'm really surprised. I feel like in my mind, Bortoleto should be higher in the driving standings than he is. He had a rough start to the season, didn't he? There was a lot that didn't go his way. But it feels like he's building towards something certainly higher than where he's sitting at the moment. He's sitting at 17th in the driver's standing with 14 points. I'm just consulting my screen here. 2 points behind Carlos Sainz. So yeah, I think he's got a long way to go this year for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, the Brazilian Grand Prix is going to be mega with him there in the colours. It's fantastic. Can't wait. It was also really cool seeing Felipe Drugovich get in the car for Aston Martin.
Yeah.
P1 this round. That's another lost talent to F1. I think, it's probably, he's past his entry date for getting a bona fide F1 drive, which is a real shame. F2 champion from 2023 or 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just cool.
And what do you mean by past his entry date? You think that there'll be no teams looking to pick him up at this stage?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. Whilst he was the F2 champion, he wasn't F2 champion in his rookie season, which is like the mark of a future champion.
Right. And
then he's been sat on the sidelines as a reserve driver for Aston Martin for 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah. So I think it's like momentum. Momentum's a big thing in this sport. If you're not moving forward, then you're kind of moving out. And he's doing things in World Endurance Championship. So he's got another pathway, which is cool. But, people want to be in F1. That's the goal. People, their whole lives, they've been working towards this thing, and to get so close and then to fall short, it's very disappointing.
Yeah, that is really tough. Well, say a prayer for him. Thoughts and prayers. How are you feeling about the Dutch Grand Prix, Jace? I've got a feeling that's got to be one of your favourite tracks, right?
The Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort. It's not one of my favourite tracks.
Why not?
I think it's a beautiful looking track.
Yeah.
I think it's got a lot of cool factor with those banked corners. And of course the Dutch fans coming out in force to support their driver. That's really cool. I just don't think you get really exciting racing there. I think the cars are
I think that's probably
for
fair.
That circuit.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Getting smaller, cars are getting smaller next year. So it'll be interesting. I think they're about a foot smaller next year. It's going to be really interesting to see how the cars behave on some of those kind of narrower, tighter tracks now that they've got a bit less boat-like design, and whether we actually see a more exciting style of racing with just a bit more overtaking potential with that slightly narrower, shorter car.
Yeah, just on that note of Zandvoort and why I don't like it. It's also the place where Ricciardo crashed and broke his wrist or broke his hand 2 seasons ago, and that really did him in. And it was also, I think, the only crash that Piastri's had in his F1 career so far. I don't know if you've noticed, Piastri's a very, not a very crashy driver. He doesn't crash very often. And that's pretty much his biggest crash. And he went in FP1 or FP2, he went into the barrier. That was it. Remarkable. On Piastri as well, I think I saw a stat the other day. This is his 32nd consecutive points finish in F1.
Wow.
So he's close to the record of consecutive points finishes. I think it's 42 or 43, something like that. So he may get there before the end of the year to have the most consecutive points finishes in F1.
That is impressive. And today we obviously broke the 8-win ahead. Leclerc, Lando and Oscar all with 8 wins going into this race. And Lando finally breaks that tie and brings it to 8-8-9 for those, which is really interesting.
Do you remember the Hungarian Grand Prix last year when Piastri got his first win and the circumstances of that? That was not a win to be proud of as well. If you recall, there had to be team orders. Oh, if we were podcasting back then, that would have been juicy. I remember it was, there was a pit stop where Norris came in before Piastri.
Yeah.
So that left Norris ahead of Piastri on track. And then they were trying to convince Norris to give the place back for 10 or 13 laps or so, saying, Lando, you're really going to need the team. You know, it's a team game. There'll be times in the future where Piastri you really need his help and support to win. And then finally on the second last lap, Norris goes, yeah, fine. Yeah, there we go. I made my point, but I'll give you the win.
I think he said something. I think Lando said something to his engineer like, "Well, tell him to catch me up then. If he catches me up, I'll let him pass."
And then the irony was later on in the year when Norris did need Piastri to win, Piastri didn't help him.
No,
Piastri barged past him at the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. He just did not. He was not interested in playing the team game. And that's what you said earlier as well about how Piastri doesn't acknowledge his teammate's success. He doesn't acknowledge the points for the team. Piastri's in it for himself. He has made that abundantly clear in his words and actions recently. I find it a little bit distasteful, but I also kind of love it as well. The honesty and the selfishness of this man.
I don't think any F1 championship winners in their winning seasons certainly come across as very likable people, unless you're a super maxi fan who will just ignore all their toxic traits. They all, there's always a bit of a bitter taste in the viewer's mouth with the way some of them go about getting those wins. But I really liked Lando today in his post-heat interview. Still 9 points ahead, just seemed really carefree. I think he said something along the lines of, it's tough, it's fun. This is in regard to Piastri. It's tough, it's fun, but I look forward to more of it. That's a really positive, I look forward to more of these battles. Whether he actually means that, I mean, I'm sure if you offered him an opportunity to sail off into the distance and get his first championship, I'm sure he'd take that. But I thought that was good that his headspace was like, yeah, bring it on. Let's have fun.
Yeah, and to win it honestly and on track, and for it not to be decided through bad luck or
team
illness
orders
team orders. I mean, how much of a riot would there be if the team orders suddenly cropped up at the end of the season and people were being asked to step aside for their teammate? I mean, that's just not the kind of racing we want. So I've always been a fan of the Zach Brown approach. Let them race. Sometimes it doesn't work, but this season so far, been pretty good, and plenty more to come. Well, I look forward to, what are you going to do over the summer break? You're going to go and inspect some F1 courses, do some walk. You were talking about maybe going to Europe and just walking all the European tracks, weren't you? It's either that or crying to my cornflakes because there's no F1. Well, we'll have to jump on here and do a few more podcasts looking into a few bits and pieces that we personally find interesting. I'm sure that can be arranged. Yeah. That sounds good. Lovely listener, if you have any suggested topics, please reach out. Let us know. Yeah, let us know. We are Fresh Rubber F1 on all social media platforms, so come say hello. Awesome. See you next time, Jace. Can't wait, mate. Enjoy the break. You've been listening to the Fresh Rubber Podcast. See you at the Apex.